Well, that could have gone a lot worse. Hello, darkness, my old friend. You've come to talk with me again. Sens lose 4-3 in overtime to the New Jersey Devils.
How are the young guys now? I finally did it! I scored again! Quit taking penalties!
The Sens are gonna blow this game. Way to tie up the stick in front. Not.
Well done. Just well done.
You better believe we're gonna be having a penalty chat at the end of this one.
What a time to be alive!
What a long and brutal season that was.
This team, man!
Well, the schedule makers didn't do the Sens any favors. Ottawa got a week off, while New Jersey played on Friday. The Sens definitely look like the worst team in this one, and it's New Jersey. So, that was just bad. But, like I said, Sens had the excuse of being fat and happy from eating turkey for a week, so it's not all that surprising. As always though, let's kick things off with lineup changes. And those lineup changes came fast and furious for the Sens, as they sent one player down and called two up. We'll start with the guys coming up. The first guy that came up was no surprise, as the Sens recalled J.C. Beaudin. Beaudin came back up to the Sens after being sent down following last week's game against Buffalo. Beaudin was only sent down because the Sens didn't have any games anyway, so seeing him get called back up when they need him again is no surprise. But in a bit of a surprising move, the guy joining Beaudin coming up to Ottawa was not Max Lajoie, but was Christian Jaros instead. My understanding was the Sens wanted to keep Jaros down this year to allow him to play as much as possible in the AHL, with the idea of bringing him up again late this year or early next season and hopefully never sending him back. But on the other side, seeing the Sens call up Jaros instead of Lajoie wasn't a huge surprise. When Lajoie played, he didn't play a ton, so giving Jaros a shot only makes sense. If the coaching staff can't trust Lajoie, maybe they will trust Jaros. And with so many defensemen injured, right now dependable D is all the Sens need. So as for the game day lineup itself, that one's pretty easy. Jaros comes in and Lajoie goes out. So that brings us to the send down, as the Sens sent Logan Brown back to Belleville. This move came as no surprise to me. Back when Logan Brown was first called up, I was a little surprised to see him called up at the time, but the Sens needed some guys, and he was naturally that guy. He then stayed with the Sens and played really well at first. Unfortunately for Brown and the Sens, the longer he was in the lineup, the less effective he seemed to get. Finally, by the end of his time in Ottawa, he'd been relegated to the fourth line and wasn't playing very many minutes at all. For a guy like Brown, who's highly thought of, to be sitting on the bench playing a few minutes a night just didn't make sense. Send him back to Belleville, team him back up with Drake Batherson, and let those two run wild. So, with Brown out of the lineup, the Sens need to re-add somebody to the lineup, and for the first time since the beginning of November, Scott Sabourin was in the Sens lineup. This was really nice to see. After the fall he took in Boston, I was concerned he might not get back to the NHL again. Seeing him play an NHL game again was a huge relief, I'm sure, for him. So Sabourin and Jaros are in, Lajoie and Brown are out, and Andy gets another start and goal. And surprisingly enough, given that the Sens had a week off, they came out in the first period and actually played pretty well. That was until just shy of 9 minutes into the period, when Vatanen fires the point shot on goal, he sure tips it in front, it beats Andy, the Devils take a 1-0 lead, and start running away with the first period from there. When Vatanen scored, the shots are 5-4 New Jersey. By the time the period ends, the shots are 14-6 New Jersey. The end of the period was just awful. It definitely looked like one team who had played on Friday, taking on a team who had been sitting around eating turkey for a week. Thankfully, Craig Anderson is equal to the task, and the Sens get out of the first period, trailing just 1-0. The Sens then come out in the second and are, well, a little better anyway. And then just over 8.5 minutes into the period, Anthony Duclair makes a terrific spinning pass to Nick Paul at the Devils' blue line. Paul races in, fires a wrist shot on Blackwood. Blackwood mishandles the puck, it beats him, and it's 1-1. And after the way Blackwood played through the first period and a half, I thought he was really good. But this goal was really bad. Duclair made a nice little play at the blue line, but Paul just shot the puck at the net. that's one you've got to have. But, as a Sens fan, hey, the game's tied. That goal gives the Sens a little bit of momentum, and they start to take over the period. And less than 5 minutes after Paul ties the score, Englund fires a shot on goal, Blackwood makes a save, Artem Anisimov bats the puck out of midair by Blackwood, and it's 2-1 Ottawa. Man, Artem Anisimov is really starting to come on strong with the Sens. He had a really tough start to the season, but the last few weeks he's looked really good, and this was a terrific goal. If he keeps this up, I might have to start embracing him as a stud Sen. But a few minutes later, the Sens run into some penalty trouble. As Colin White fires the puck out of play, Vladislav Nemestikov trips a Devils player in the Devils zone, and New Jersey goes to a 5-on-3. While on that 5-on-3, New Jersey works the puck around, goes to Gusev on the side door, he has a terrible angle, somehow squeaks it through the arm of Anderson, and we're tied at 2. You know, I would have liked Andy to make the save there, given the angle, but that's a tough save to make. And then a few minutes later, for the second time in the game, New Jersey gets a puck in their own zone, and the defenseman just flips it into the middle of the ice. Ottawa loses a foot race for it, Wood outmuscles Golubev to the puck, races in all alone, beats Andy 5-hole, and it's 3-2 New Jersey. Oh great, so last year Ottawa didn't cover the front of the net. This year it's the neutral zone play. That's the second time in this game, and the third time recently, where the other teams just flicked the puck in the air, and Ottawa's done a terrible job of getting it. The other teams had a breakaway and either scored or been robbed by the goalie. That's gotta change. Fortunately, there's not enough time left in the period for the Devils to do it again, and we head to the third with the Devils in front 3-2. And the Sens then come out in the third and don't really do a ton. But with under 5 minutes left, Pajot leaves the puck for Chabot at the point. He fires a shabomb by Mackenzie Blackwood, and we're tied at 3. And when I say a shabomb, I mean a shabomb. That was a big time shot. And that's how things would stay as we head to overtime with the game still tied at 3. And you know what that means. Since Ottawa tied the game, they're going to lose in overtime. And as soon as that overtime period started, I pulled out my phone to send a tweet. And before I could get that tweet out, Jack Hughes gets a breakaway, he roofs one over Anderson, and the Devils win it 4-3 in overtime. Wasn't even long enough for me to finish that tweet before it happened. And even the Christmas break couldn't snap the Sens' overtime streak. Make that 7 of 8 the Sens have gone to overtime. And just like every other one of those overtime games, when the Sens blow a lead, they win it. And when they come back, they lose it. Well, this game, they came back and they lost. Let's just get into good news, bad news. I wasn't really happy with much of anything last night, but the Sens were able to dial Thomas Chabot's minutes back, and that is the good news. Chabot's been averaging like 35 minutes a game for the last couple weeks. In this game, he played 29 minutes. Well, it was actually a little under 29 minutes, but it was close enough. And honestly, I think those few extra minutes less playing made a big difference. I don't know about you, but I thought Chabot looked a lot more fresh and crisp in this game. I'm sure the Christmas break helped that, as he's had a lot of days off, but the fact that he wasn't playing 35 minutes probably helped that too. And with Ottawa in a back-to-back scenario where they have to travel, it's probably a really smart thing to keep his minutes down a little. And Chabot's minutes being down is the good news. Now, for the bad news. Last night's effort wasn't great, and it likely only gets worse tonight. And that is the bad news. Last night, the Sens came into the game playing a team that was fresh and had already banged the rust off, but was down at the bottom of the standings. Tonight, they play a fresh team who's already banged the rust off and is at the top of the league standings. Oh, and they're playing a Sens team that's not rusty anymore. Now they're just flat tired. So yeah, things could get ugly tonight against Pittsburgh. And that is the bad news. Speaking of which, next up, the Sens return to action tonight when they visit the Pittsburgh Penguins. This contest will be the first of 3 meetings on the season between the two teams, with the teams not meeting up again until March. Based on recent head-to-head play, it's actually the Sens who should come into that contest with a little bit of momentum over Pittsburgh, as they did pick up wins in 2 of 3 games against the Penguins last season. But the Penguins do come into this contest winners of 6 of 7, and sit 5th in the league standings, while the Sens are 26th. Pittsburgh is also currently 13 points ahead of the Sens, with a game in hand. Oh, and the Sens had to travel to Pittsburgh for this game, while the Penguins have been sitting around in Pittsburgh since Saturday. So yeah, this probably isn't gonna go well. That's it for this video. Hit like if you liked it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share it with anybody you know, and today's question of the day is, what did you think of the Sens sending down Logan Brown? Did you like it? Didn't you like it? Let me know down below, and we'll see you later this evening when the Sens visit the Pittsburgh Penguins.